If you look at the history of California growth, it was growing 4 times the rate of the country, 3.5 times, 2.5 times in the 80s. That has slowed down to nothing. For the first time right now, a majority of Californians were born in California. That's weird.
So let's start off on an optimistic note.
Yes.
On a scale of 1 to doomed, how doomed is California?
I would just say only about a 6. Doomed, we'll say
and is this like Richter
10.
Scale valuation that you're using?
Exactly. So if it's 6.1, then that's what, 100 times more than the 6.0. California is doomed, but California is eternally doomed and eternally figures something out that people hadn't thought of before. And as someone who's born there, I have that insanity baked into my mind of like, we can always pull out of the skid. We'll do something crazy there. Like, crazy stuff happens in California. The tax revolt, the property tax revolt happened in California. Strange stuff happens there. I mean, Silicon Valley happened in California, Hollywood happened in California. They invent their way out of problems. And the one thing that I hold on to as potential hope, given the pension crisis and the state level and the local levels and just a lot of other stuff, is that thankfully the vast majority of people in California don't give a rip about politics. I mean, we were talking off camera before, I think Nick Gillespie was asking you about Jerry Brown, and I think the unspoken thing is, no one cares about Jerry Brown in California. They vote, this many people who vote in elections will vote for him, but people don't wake up in the morning in California thinking about politics. And I think in there somehow lies the salvation, because it's the stuff outside of politics that creates the value that allows you to steer out of the ditch that politics created. Amen.
There's always a rhetoric of crisis surrounding issues large and small, and it works for politicians to say, no, this is the true crisis. No, the thing I care about most is the true crisis. But every once in a while, as California political history shows, there are some actual crises where you look at the property tax revolt, and people were getting priced out of the homes they lived in through property taxes. Do you see anything out there that might rise to that level of
pensions? Pensions are public sector is on the hook. CalPERS is just this sitting, festering behemoth out there that is claiming that it gets 7.5% returns every year. There's just no way that's going to work. So there's a cascade of bankruptcies that I think is probably pretty inevitable in California because of the promises they've made. There is a way out of that. Ultimately, it's going to have to be cities declaring bankruptcy, those pensions switching to defined, benefit, or defined contribution rather than defined benefit. It's going to happen. It's going to be painful, and it's not going to happen soon because people haven't really swallowed that reality. A weird reality that I think is less of a crisis, but more of a symptom of we're in a different place that we never thought of. Think of this. In 2010, for the first time in California's history, it didn't add anybody to its caucus in the House of Representatives. California is no longer growing faster than the rest of the country. It's growing at the exact same rate, about 10% in that last decade. If you look at the history of California growth, it was growing 4 times the rate of the country, 3.5 times, 2.5 times in the 80s. That has slowed down to nothing. For the first time right now, a majority of Californians were born in California. That's weird. That we didn't think, that's not how the place was built. I'm from North Long Beach, which was invented in the Lakewood area. It's the biggest Levittown west of Levittown, ultimately, right? And it was built on aerospace, and it was built on just, let's make 50,000 houses in 18 months. Whatever, people are flooding here, they always flood here, they always will. And when you have these kind of, the mentality of growth is now hit up against sort of this wall of people aren't choosing California. Immigrants are not choosing California as a destination. Americans aren't transferring there to get away from other places. I don't really know exactly what kind of problem that creates, except for that it just shows that you don't have growth, you don't have the dynamism.
Well, California is losing the kinds of Californians that presumably you'd actually want to stay in
yes.
your state.
And with that, you lose the sense of the dream. I mean, there's a reason why Kevin Starr's interminable series on the state is all wrapped around California and the American dream, or the Californian dream, which is in many ways fictitious, as any fan of music would know, and that's part of the beauty of it, is that the Beach Boys didn't surf, right? We come there, or even if we come from there, as the Beach Boys did, you still are holding up to create some beautiful kind of utopia or just a momentary glimpse of beauty out there. That's always been part of the deal of California. when that becomes less of the deal of California, I think like the creative something of the state gets lost. And that's ultimately kind of what I worry about, just in the same way that I worry about on the national scale. I don't worry about that, Peter Schiff is right, we're going to be wheelbarrowing, debased currency through the streets. I worry that it's going to be boring, that it's going to be like Japan. We basically grow by this much, people just kind of don't really work, and there's a sense of flaccidness about it all, if you want to make it male-centric for a moment. There's nothing robust there happening anymore. That's what I worry about, because my California, my sense of it is that it should be a crazy place. We should be like owning the fruits and nuts tag. That's the point. Yes, we are fruits and nuts. That's why we make awesome stuff that you're going to want. And when you lose that sense, then there's going to be bad effects for the state and for the rest of the country.